Here's the thing about being underestimated. Sometimes it's the most dangerous position you can put someone in. A billionaire walked into my restaurant and decided I was nobody. Just another waitress. Uneducated. Forgettable. Beneath him. So when he humiliated me in front of his powerful investors, he thought there would be no consequences. But he was wrong. Because I wasn't just a waitress. And when he pushed me too far, I stopped hiding. I exposed his lies in front of everyone, switched between languages like breathing, and watched his entire empire crumble in real time. There's something about being invisible that feels safe. When nobody sees you, nobody can hurt you. When nobody notices you, nobody digs into your past. And for a long time, that's exactly what I needed. To be nobody. To be nothing. To just exist without being remembered. This is my story. The story of the night I finally fought back. Welcome to Heartline Story. While you're here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your thoughts on this story and where you're watching from. My name is Jennifer Dyer, and I'm about to tell you a story that changed everything for me. A story about the night I stopped hiding and finally reclaimed who I was. I worked at a place called the Silver Falcon. If you've never heard of it, don't worry. It's not the kind of restaurant regular people go to. This was the kind of place where a single bottle of wine could cost what most families spend on rent. Where CEOs closed multi-million-dollar deals over appetizers. Where diplomats, hedge fund executives, and politicians gathered under crystal chandeliers that sparkled like captured stars. The reservation list was booked 6 months out. The dress code was enforced. The exclusivity was the point. I was a waitress there. Just another woman in a crisp black uniform, moving quietly between tables, refilling glasses, clearing plates, smiling politely, and disappearing into the background. Charlie Cole was exactly what you'd picture when you think of a ruthless billionaire. Tall, silver-haired, with a face that looked like it had been carved from stone, all sharp angles and cold eyes. He wore a suit that probably cost more than I'd earned in the past year. His watch caught the light from the chandeliers, gleaming like it wanted everyone to notice. He walked into the Silver Falcon like he owned the world. And maybe in some way he did. Money has a way of making you feel invincible. He wasn't alone. He had 4 people with him, international investors. I recognized their accents immediately, even from across the room. German, French, Mandarin, Portuguese. These were serious people. Powerful people. The kind who moved billions with a handshake. Our manager personally escorted them to the best table in the house, right in the center of the dining room beneath the main chandelier. The table that said, "Look at me. I'm untouchable." Charlie sat down without even acknowledging our manager. He was too busy talking, gesturing with his hands, dominating the conversation before it even truly began. His guests laughed at his jokes. That forced kind of laughter that happens when people desperately want to impress someone powerful. I watched from across the room, keeping my distance. Something about him made my chest tighten. Maybe it was the way he dismissed our manager with a wave of his hand, like swatting away an insect. Maybe it was the way his investors seemed tense beneath their smiles. Maybe it was recognition stirring in the back of my mind. A face I'd seen before, in another life, in government briefings. Whatever it was, every instinct I had screamed, "Stay away from that table." I served other guests. The quiet couples in the corner booths. The business partners negotiating in hushed tones. The elderly woman celebrating her birthday alone. I did my job. I stayed invisible. I was good at it. But then Marcus, one of the senior waiters, rushed up to me near the kitchen entrance. His face was flushed, his hands trembling slightly. "Jennifer," he whispered urgently. "I need you to cover Cole's table. Just for a few minutes. I spilled sauce on my shirt. I need to change before he notices." My heart dropped. "Marcus, I can't." "Please," he begged, his eyes desperate. "It's just water refills. You'll be fine. Just don't speak to him. Don't even look at him directly. In and out. 2 minutes. That's it." Before I could refuse, he was gone, disappearing toward the staff locker room. I stood there frozen, staring at that table in the center of the room, at Charlie Cole, laughing loudly, completely unaware that his night was about to change forever. And so was mine. Have you ever felt your entire body warning you to walk away from something? That's what I felt as I picked up the crystal water pitcher and started walking toward Charlie Cole's table. Every step felt wrong. Every breath felt too shallow. But my hands were steady. Years of training had taught me that much. You can be terrified inside and still look perfectly calm on the outside. Charlie was in the middle of telling a story about a recent acquisition. Something about crushing a competitor and acquiring their company for pennies on the dollar. His voice was loud, confident, the kind of voice that expected everyone to listen and admire. His investors were nodding, but I noticed the tightness around their eyes. The careful smiles. They were being sold something, and they knew it. I approached from the side, moving quietly. This was my specialty, being there without being noticed. I reached for the first glass, the one in front of the French investor. My hand was steady, my movements practiced. I poured without making a sound. Then I moved to the second glass. Charlie's glass. And that's when the universe decided to shatter my carefully constructed invisibility into 1,000 pieces. Charlie shifted in his seat suddenly, leaning back to emphasize a point about market dominance. His elbow shot out, fast, careless, and collided directly with my wrist. The wine bottle tilted. Time slowed to a crawl. 3 drops. Maybe 4. Dark red against expensive gray fabric. They splashed onto the sleeve of his suit jacket and sat there like accusations. The world stopped. Charlie froze mid-sentence, his mouth still open. His eyes dropped slowly to his sleeve, tracking each crimson drop as it soaked into the fabric. Then very slowly, he turned his head and looked up at me. The expression on his face made my blood turn to ice. It wasn't anger. Not yet. It was something far worse. It was disgust. The kind of look you'd give something you found rotting on your shoe. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. His investors stiffened in their seats. Conversations at nearby tables died mid-word. The soft classical music from the speakers suddenly felt obscenely loud. Silence fell like a guillotine. Are you kidding me right now? Charlie's voice was low, controlled, dangerous in its quietness. I'm so sorry, sir, I said quickly, my throat tightening. It was an accident. Let me get. Do you have any idea how much this suit costs? His voice rose with each word, cutting through the restaurant like a blade. Heads turned. Every eye in the room shifted toward us. I could feel the weight of their attention pressing down on my shoulders. I kept my eyes down, my years of training kicking in automatically. Stay calm. Apologize. Don't make it worse. Don't draw attention. Disappear. I sincerely apologize, sir, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. I'll get something to clean it immediately. A cleaning cloth? Charlie laughed, but there was no humor in it. It was cruel. Mocking. You think a cloth is going to fix this? This is a custom-tailored Brioni suit. $18,000. And you just ruined it because you can't even pour wine without making a mess. My face burned with humiliation. I could feel every single person in that restaurant staring at me. Some had pulled out their phones. I could see them in my peripheral vision. Screens up, recording, capturing my shame for posterity. The German investor shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The woman from Brazil looked away, her jaw tight. But no one said anything. No one intervened. Our manager appeared at the edge of my vision, rushing over with panic written across his face. But Charlie held up one hand, stopping him without even looking. He wasn't finished with me yet. Charlie stood up slowly, towering over me. He looked me up and down like I was something he'd scraped off the bottom of his shoe. Look at you, he said, his voice dripping with contempt. You probably didn't even finish high school, did you? Couldn't cut it in the real world, so now you're here, carrying plates, pouring drinks, spilling them on people who actually matter. Something twisted inside my chest. A familiar pain. Sharp and cutting. The pain of being made to feel worthless. The pain of being treated like you're nothing. Like your entire existence is an inconvenience to people who believe they're better than you. But Charlie wasn't finished. He was enjoying this now. I could see it in his eyes. The satisfaction of having an audience, of having power, of being able to destroy someone with words while everyone watched. You know what the problem is with people like you? He continued, gesturing at me like I was an object on display. You don't understand your place. There are people in this world who build empires, who create value, who move billions and shape industries, who matter. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. And then there are people like you, the ones who serve us, the ones who are completely, utterly replaceable. You're not special. You're not important. You're just furniture with a pulse. The French investor cleared his throat quietly. The Chinese businessman's expression had gone carefully neutral. But no one spoke up. No one defended me. Charlie leaned closer, his eyes locked on mine, his voice dropping to something almost intimate in its cruelty. I could have you fired with a snap of my fingers, he said softly. One word to the owner and you're done. You'll be out on the street begging for another minimum wage job that you'll probably lose because you can't even do something as simple as pour wine without ruining an $18,000 suit. Each word landed like a physical blow. Each one aimed precisely at the places that hurt most. For 12 months, I had stayed quiet. For 12 months, I had swallowed my pride, my intelligence, my education, my voice. I had made myself small because it felt safer. Because hiding felt like survival. But in that moment, something inside me cracked. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't sudden. It was more like ice breaking on a frozen lake, silent, inevitable, irreversible. All the anger I'd been holding in. All the frustration at being invisible. All the rage at watching my brother destroyed by lies while I could do nothing. All the times I'd been treated like I was worthless. All the times I'd stayed silent when I should have spoken. All the times I'd let people like him win because it was easier than fighting. It all came rushing to the surface at once. A memory flashed through my mind, sharp and painful. My brother's face on the news. His name dragged through the mud by people who didn't care about truth. Politicians who twisted facts to serve their narratives. My own desperate attempts to defend him, to present evidence, to matter. Only to be dismissed, silenced, pushed aside. You don't have the credentials to make that claim, Ms. Dyer. You're too emotionally involved to be objective. Perhaps you should let the professionals handle this. I had let them silence me then. I had walked away. I had run to New York and buried myself in invisibility because fighting felt impossible. But I wasn't in Washington anymore. And Charlie Cole wasn't a politician protected by power structures and legal teams. He was just a bully. A rich, cruel bully who thought his money made him invincible. And I was done being silent. I lifted my head. Slowly. Deliberately. For the first time in 12 months. I looked someone directly in the eyes without fear, without submission, without the carefully practiced neutrality I'd worn like armor. And what Charlie Cole saw in my face made him pause mid-breath, made his smug expression falter just slightly. It wasn't shame. It wasn't apology. It wasn't the defeated acceptance he'd expected. It was something else entirely. It was cold, controlled fury. I set the wine bottle down on the table. Not gently. Not apologetically. I set it down with deliberate purpose. The sound of glass meeting would echoing in the silent restaurant. Then I straightened my shoulders, lifted my chin, and did something I hadn't done in a very, very long time. I spoke back. Not with trembling words or desperate apologies. Not with the careful, submissive tone of someone trying to keep their job. I spoke with the voice of someone who had finally remembered exactly who she was. You asked if I finished high school. I said clearly, my voice cutting through the silence like a bell. Charlie blinked. His mouth opened slightly, surprise flickering across his arrogant face. Every phone in the restaurant stayed up. Every camera kept recording. But this time I didn't care. Because for the first time in over a year, I refused to stay silent. I didn't drop out of high school. I continued, my voice steady and clear. I finished university. 2 master's degrees actually. One in international relations. One in linguistics. A collective gasp rippled through the restaurant. Phones shifted, zooming in. The recording intensified. Charlie's face twisted. You're lying. I also speak 7 languages fluently, I said calmly. English, Mandarin, Spanish, French, German, Arabic, and Portuguese. Bullshit, Charlie spat. You're making this up too. I turned to the Chinese investor and switched languages mid-breath. The Mandarin flowed from my mouth like water. Fluid, perfect, native. Sir, the valuation figures he quoted don't match the documents he gave you. The investor's eyes went wide. His mouth fell open. I shifted to German, addressing the older man to his left. Herr Schmidt, die Klausel auf Seite 7 ist falsch übersetzt. Es sagt Garantie, aber das Original sagt Option. Das ist ein sehr großer Unterschied. Mr. Schmidt, the clause on page 7 is mistranslated. It says guarantee, but the original says option. That's a very big difference. The German investor grabbed his contract, flipping pages frantically. Then French. Madame Beaumont, la clause de non-concurrence que vous avez signée, elle vous empêche de travailler dans votre propre secteur pendant 5 ans. Madame Beaumont, the non-compete clause you signed? It prevents you from working in your own industry for 5 years. The French woman's face went pale. Finally, Portuguese. Senhor Costa, o termo liquidez garantida no contrato não existe. É uma invenção. Mr. Costa, the term guaranteed liquidity in the contract? It doesn't exist. It's invented. The Brazilian investor slowly set down his pen. Silence crashed over the table like a wave. The investors turned to each other, whispering urgently in their respective languages. Suspicion bloomed across their faces. Documents were rechecked. Numbers compared. Charlie's face had drained of color. His jaw clenched. Panic flickered behind his eyes, but he masked it quickly with rage. She's trying to sabotage. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to something quiet and deadly. You wanted to embarrass me, Mr. Cole. Instead, you exposed yourself. 4 investors stared at Charlie Cole like they were watching a predator lose its teeth. I recognize all of you, I said, addressing the investors directly. Herr Schmidt, we met briefly at the Geneva Summit in 2022. Madame Beaumont, you spoke at the Paris Economic Forum. Senor Costa, Mr. Zhang, I worked with your governments. I know exactly who you are. Their expressions shifted from shock to something harder, more calculating. Which means I also know what you're looking at, I continued. And I know what he's hiding. Charlie's hand slammed on the table. That's enough. Sit down. My voice cut through his like a knife. He sat. I turned back to the investors. Mr. Cole has 17 offshore shell companies registered in the Cayman Islands. His charitable foundation? It exists on paper only, tax shelter, nothing more. The tech valuation he showed you is inflated by 340%. Those projected earnings? They're from companies he's already gutted and sold. Herr Schmidt was flipping through documents furiously now. Madame Beaumont had her phone out, pulling up records. Mr. Zhang's expression had gone ice cold. This is his pattern, I said calmly. Inflate the value. Secure investment. Acquire smaller competitors. Strip their assets. Sell the manipulated numbers before anyone realizes the company's hollow. He's done it 6 times in 4 years. She's lying. Charlie shouted, standing again. The SEC investigated you in 2023, I interrupted, not even looking at him. You settled quietly. $50 million. The records are public if you know where to look. Our manager had appeared behind me. He didn't speak, but his presence was clear. He was standing with me, not Charlie. Gasps rippled through the restaurant. A woman at a nearby table had both hands over her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. Phones were everywhere now. A forest of screens capturing everything. Charlie's voice cracked when he spoke. You can't prove any of this. Your deal was built on lies, Mr. Cole, I said quietly. And tonight every one of them comes to light. Page 14 of your pitch deck, I said. You claim $280 million in liquid assets. Your actual SEC filing from last quarter shows $91 million. Where did the other $189 million come from, Mr. Cole? The investors were tearing through documents now, pages flying. Sweat beaded on Charlie's forehead. Mr. Zhang spoke rapidly in Mandarin. These numbers don't add up. Can you explain the third quarter discrepancy? I answered without hesitation. Third quarter, he reclassified debt from 3 subsidiaries as deferred revenue. It's accounting fraud. Mr. Zhang's face hardened to stone. Herr Schmidt switched to German. Und die Patente? Gehören die wirklich ihm? And the patents? Does he actually own them? Nein. Sie sind lizenziert, nicht im Besitz. Sie laufen in 18 Monaten ab. No. They're licensed, not owned. They expire in 18 months. Madame Beaumont set down her pen. Elle a raison. J'ai vérifié. Les chiffres ne correspondent pas. She's right. Eva checked. The numbers don't match. Show us your actual financial ledger, Senor Costa demanded. Right now. Charlie's face went white. That's proprietary. Show us. I don't have to. Senor Costa stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. The sound echoed through the silent restaurant like a gunshot. If the waitress understands this deal better than you, he said coldly, we're done. One by one the other investors rose. Herr Schmidt. Madame Beaumont. Mr. Zhang. Their chairs scraped in sequence, a symphony of rejection. 300 guests watched in stunned silence as 4 of the world's most powerful investors gathered their belongings. Wait, please. Charlie reached out desperately, his hand trembling. We can discuss. They walked past him like he didn't exist. Single file toward the exit. Their backs straight. Their decision final. Charlie stood frozen, his hand still extended into empty air. His face had gone from red to ash gray. His mouth opened and closed soundlessly. His billion-dollar empire was collapsing in real time. And everyone was watching. Charlie whirled on me, his face twisted with rage. You bitch, you just destroyed. 2 security guards appeared instantly, stepping between us. Their hands didn't touch him, but their presence was unmistakable. Our manager moved to my side, his voice firm. Mr. Cole, you need to leave. Now. I'm not going anywhere until she. If you insult my staff again, the manager said coldly, you'll be permanently banned from this establishment. Applause broke out. Scattered at first, one person, then another, then a wave of it rolling through the restaurant. Guests were clapping. Some were standing. The sound built until it filled every corner of the Silver Falcon. Charlie looked around wildly, disbelief and humiliation warring on his face. Every phone was still recording. Every camera captured his downfall in high definition. I could see the screens. Some were already uploading, sharing, streaming live. His empire wasn't just collapsing. It was being documented for the world to see. Sir, this way. Security gestured toward the door. Charlie jerked away from them, but they stayed close. He had no choice. He moved toward the exit like a man walking to his execution, his expensive shoes clicking against marble. At the door, he turned back one last time. His eyes found mine across the restaurant. You'll regret this, Jennifer, he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. I'll make sure you never work again. I didn't respond. I didn't flinch. I simply stood there, my shoulders straight, my head high, watching as the glass doors swung shut behind him. The sound of them closing was final. Absolute. The restaurant erupted in applause again. My hands were trembling. My heart was racing. Adrenaline coursed through my veins like electricity. But I had stayed strong. I had spoken. I had fought back. For the first time in over a year, I felt like myself again. I didn't sleep that night. By the time I got home to my tiny apartment in Queens, my phone was exploding. Texts, emails, messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. The video had gone viral. Not just viral, everywhere. 12 million views by sunrise. The number climbed every time I refreshed. 15 million. 20 million. The footage was crystal clear. Someone had captured everything from the moment Charlie humiliated me to the moment security escorted him out. The hashtags were trending worldwide. Hashtag Waitress with 7 languages. Hashtag Jennifer Dyer. Hashtag The Silver Falcon Showdown. News outlets were calling. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. The New York Times wanted an exclusive interview. The Washington Post was writing a feature. Morning shows were leaving voicemails. Celebrities I'd never met were reposting the clip with comments. This is what courage looks like. She destroyed him. Icon behavior. Billionaires really think they're untouchable until someone like her comes along. My inbox overflowed with messages. Thousands of them. People sharing their own stories of being underestimated, humiliated, silenced. Thanking me for speaking up. Calling me brave. I cried reading them. Not from sadness, from something else. Something that felt like vindication. Meanwhile, Charlie Cole's world was burning. His company's stock prices plummeted. Major partners issued statements reevaluating their relationships. 3 board members resigned. His Wikipedia page was being updated in real time with words like fraud and investigation. The IRS released a statement. The SEC announced a formal inquiry. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Washington, D.C. area code. My hand trembled as I answered. Ms. Dyer? This is Agent Sarah Chun with the Department of Justice. We've been investigating Mr. Cole's financial activities for 18 months. After last night's incident, we need to speak with you. Your testimony could be crucial. Can you come to our office? I closed my eyes. Yes, I whispered. I can. The DOJ meeting lasted 4 hours. They had files on Charlie going back 3 years. Shell companies' fraudulent valuations, tax evasion schemes. My testimony filled gaps they'd been trying to close for months. Ms. Dyer, Agent Chen said as I prepared to leave. We'd like you to consult on this case. Your expertise in international finance and languages would be invaluable. I nodded slowly. I'll think about it. But the offers didn't stop there. 3 international nonprofits reached out. 2 law firms specializing in corporate fraud. The United Nations Development Program. A linguistics institute. Companies that needed someone who understood multiple languages, cultures, and the intricate ways power operated across borders. The world I'd run from was calling me back. Then Dr. Patricia Morgan called, my old mentor from graduate school. Jennifer, she said warmly. I saw the video. I've been trying to reach you for 2 years. We met at a cafe in Manhattan. She looked the same. Sharp eyes, kind smile, gray hair pulled back elegantly. You were never meant to be invisible, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. What happened to your brother wasn't your fault. You did everything you could. The words broke something open inside me. Tears came, hot cleansing overdue. I couldn't save him, I whispered. No. But you can honor him by living fully. By using your gifts. By refusing to hide. That night, I visited my brother's grave for the first time in a year. I told him everything. About Charlie. About finding my voice. About choosing to step back into the light. I'm done hiding, I said to the stone marker. I promise. The next morning, my manager called. Jennifer, we'd like to offer you a senior position. Sommelier training management track. Thank you, I said gently. But I think it's time to move on. I walked out of the Silver Falcon for the last time as sunrise painted Manhattan gold. A new beginning. 3 months later, the Department of Justice held a press conference. I watched it from my new apartment. Bigger windows, better light. A place that felt like hope instead of hiding. Today we are announcing federal charges against Charles Vincent Cole, the prosecutor said, her voice firm and clear. 23 counts including securities fraud, tax evasion, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes. The cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Charlie's mugshot appeared on screen. He looked smaller somehow. Diminished. The investors released a joint statement thanking me. Herr Schmidt called personally. You saved us millions, he said. But more than that, you saved our reputations. We will not forget this, Ms. Dyer. Then came the call I'd been waiting for. The International Diplomatic Relations Council. The organization I dreamed of joining before everything fell apart. They offered me a position as Chief Multilingual Communications Director, working with governments, bridging language barriers, facilitating crucial conversations across cultures. My dream job. The career I thought I'd lost forever. I accepted without hesitation. Welcome back, Jennifer, the director said warmly. We've been waiting for someone like you. So that's my story. The story of a billionaire who thought he could humiliate a waitress without consequences. Who thought money made him untouchable. Who thought the woman serving his table was nobody. He tried to make me feel small. He tried to erase me with his words, to remind me of my place in his world. But he didn't know who I was. He didn't know what I carried. The languages, the knowledge, the years of experience he dismissed with a glance. And he definitely didn't know that the woman he humiliated would be the one to bring him down. I'm not invisible anymore. I don't want to be. This is the story of the night I stopped hiding and found my voice. And I'm never losing it again.